Welcome back. New pushback from the courts against the president's aggressive immigration policies. A federal judge in Oregon has temporarily restricted federal officers from using tear gas and other chemical projectiles on protesters at the ICE building in Portland. That decision, as the clock is ticking for lawmakers to reach a deal to fund DHS. Democrats now laying out a list of demands in order for them to sign on before the money runs out next Friday. Here's Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer earlier today.
We have put together House Democrats, Senate Democrats. We're united from one end of our party to the other. And we put together some simple, common sense proposals that are done every day, that are used by police forces and local sheriffs everywhere.
Let's bring in Oregon Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley, who's the ranking member of the Budget Committee. Senator, it's great to have you here. Leader Schumer and Jeffries, they now seem to be on the same page, and they put out this extensive list we mentioned of reforms needed for any DHS funding deal, and people can read it there. It includes things like barring federal agents from wearing masks and requiring them to wear IDs. Senator Katie Britt, she's the leading Republican in these talks in your chamber. She called this list a ridiculous Christmas list of demands for the press. I wonder, is there any common ground on this list? How's the deal going to get done in just over a week?
Well, it's very frustrating to hear Britt's statement because, look, these are normal standards for behavior of police and federal agents that have now been violated. So we're establishing the standards back on. What is ridiculous about saying that officers should have ID with an agency or an individual ID so that they're accountable and discouraged from outrageous actions? What's wrong with sensitive places being off limits, like daycares and schools and places of worship? And by the way, elections are very important in that. What's wrong with having face masks off and body cameras on? I mean, these are actually just fundamentally good law enforcement standards. And the fact that it was dismissed out of hand is ridiculous, says that Team Trump and his Republican rubber stamp Senate leadership is not planning to actually take the situation seriously.
In your home state of Oregon, a federal judge has now temporarily restricted federal agents' use of aggressive tactics against protesters, such as tear gas or pepper spray. The judge had some very strong words in the ruling, quote, "In a well-functioning constitutional democratic republic, free speech, courageous news gathering, and nonviolent protest are all permitted, respected, even celebrated. In an authoritarian regime, that is not the case. Our nation is now at a crossroads." Senator, what does the judge's message here say about this moment in time we're facing?
We're at an extraordinary moment. You know, I never thought we'd see secret police in America. Around the world, we have situations where unmarked individuals, unidentified individuals, and unmarked vehicles go and snatch people off the streets or knock down their doors and grab them, detain them without access to an attorney or access to family. All of that's happening here right now in the United States of America. And that's why these extraordinary words from Judge Simon are so justified. What he was responding to was a family-friendly march in which people were in wheelchairs and children were celebrating joy and whimsy. And when demonstrators crossed a line that had been demarcated, as I understand it, it wasn't like an announcement from a loudspeaker saying you need to step back. It wasn't, hey, Portland police, we had a lot of Portland police that were dialoguing with the crowd and responding to problems. Wasn't, hey, people need to step back. No, it was rushing out and shooting people with pepper balls and the tear gas and creating complete chaos out of this situation. And it was just the suppression of peaceful, mostly orderly dissent, protesting free speech being suppressed by this authoritarian government. And that's why, and you know, he went on to say that he couldn't count on DHS and ICE not continuing the repeated shooting of pepper balls and the tear gassing of nonviolent protesters. And he said their statements show that the culture of the agency and its employees is to celebrate violent responses over diplomatic ones. And so I think he put a lot of thought into and evidence into what he presented. We really are at a moment we have to stand up for our Constitution. We have to stand up against arrests and knocking down doors without warrants. All of it has to end.
It's not normal in America. It's not what you'd expect in a democracy. The president is also floating this week this idea of nationalizing elections. And I want to get your reaction to what we heard from his former chief strategist and current ally, Steve Bannon.
You're damn right. We're going to have ICE surround the polls come November. We're not going to sit here and allow you to steal the country again. And you can whine and cry and throw your toys out of the pram all you want, but we will never again allow an election to be stolen.
Of course, it's already illegal for non-citizens to vote. What kind of impact does this kind of messaging have now 10 months before the midterms?
Well, they've been working very hard to rig the next elections, and that is the most dangerous of the many strategies, authoritarian strategies this government is undertaking. So that rigging includes trying to do mid-decade redistricting. It includes ending postmarks that help with vote by mail. It includes trying to do a national voter registration database so that they can be purged and manipulated for the upcoming election. And then he's talking about we're going to send intimidators. I mean, there is no reason for ICE or any form of federal agents to be out intimidating people at the polls. This is like King George has come to be the tyrant here in the United States of America. And one of the things I'm stressing with my caucus is that list of sensitive places where those agents cannot be has to include polling places.